Shana Tova, Gemar Chatima Tova, and Shabbat Shalom. Going to invite you were given hopefully a little song sheet. We don't have to look at it yet, but at the end, look towards it then. I want to tell you something difficult. It's going to be difficult for me to say, and it may be difficult to hear. And that is exactly why it's important to think about. I'll always remember the moment during my chaplaincy internship at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles when the office manager turned to me and said, "Hey, your dead patient wants a visit." You see, she wasn't being flippant. A few days earlier, a volunteer in the emergency department asked for a Jewish chaplain to check in with a family whose mother had just died. This was my first time dealing with the situation, so I was a little nervous. I collected myself. I checked in with the chaplain on duty. "Can you handle this?" he asked. "Yeah, I think so." With as much compassion as I could offer, I knocked on the door, entered the room, and said to the woman sitting next to the patient, "Hi, I'm Rabbi Jeremy. I'm one of the chaplains here. I'm so sorry for your loss. I have some information for you about next steps." But before I could get that last sentence out, I heard a beep, beep, coming from my patient's machines. You see, it turned out the volunteer had the information a little wrong. Patient was unconscious, not deceased. I did my best to recover, apologize, and provide some compassionate care to the family. To my credit, I happened to luck out. It was a family that wasn't so fluent in English. But I walked out of that room feeling like a failure. I felt ashamed. I felt anger at the volunteer's failure. And I felt sorry for the family who was going through enough before I opened my mouth. So when the office manager told me that my dead patient wanted a visit, I was too embarrassed to face that family again. I knew I had failed. And I also knew I needed to learn from this failure. A few years ago, a couple approached Rabbi Phil Grobart to discuss circumcision. The wife was 7 months pregnant. Both father and mother considered themselves good Jews, but they harbored some serious reservations about circumcising their baby. Rabbi Grobart marshaled all his arguments in favor, and he could see that they listened respectfully. He also urged them to consult a moil, a ritual circumciser, and a friend of the rabbi who also happened to be a pediatrician. He'd been a doctor for a while, but he just recently passed a course to become a moil. And so, the couple went to see the doctor. Like the rabbi, he urged them on, explaining the deep historical and spiritual significance of Brit Milah. He spent hours with them, setting them at ease about the procedure itself, insisting that the baby would feel very little pain and would in any case recover in almost no time and suffer no long-term repercussions. In the end, the couple decided against circumcising their newborn son. Rabbi Grobart was a little disappointed. He nursed a slight sense of failure, but he took their decision in stride. The moil doctor was devastated, though. "How could they do that?" he asked. "We spent so much time with them. We used all the right arguments." And then he asked Rabbi Grobart why he wasn't more upset. "How can you be taking this so well?" Rabbi Grobart responded plainly, "You're crushed because you're a doctor, and you're used to people taking your advice. But I'm a rabbi. I'm used to people not listening to me. And I'm also used to failing. You're not. You have to learn." We avoid failure. And when we have to face what we avoid, When someone holds up a mirror in front of us, we struggle, we squirm, we get defensive. We resonate with the words of Jackson Browne. Please don't confront me with my failures. I have not forgotten them. And many of us, myself included, approach failure the way the character Randall on the show This Is Us does. We've been chasing after perfection our entire life, and we fail, and we fail, and we failure. And that failure leads to self-doubt and self-loathing and just all this other stuff we got muddled up inside here. But what if we embraced our failures? What if we embraced our flaws and sought to see each failure as an opportunity for growth? Instead of saying, wow, I really failed, we could say, wow, I really failed. But I'm going to learn from this experience, and I'm going to fail better next time. Fail better next time. Regina Duggan posed a question in her TED Talk. What would you attempt to do if you knew that you could not fail? Now think about this for a second. What would you attempt to do if you knew that you could not fail? Duggan continued, if you really ask yourself this question, you can't help but feel uncomfortable. Because when you ask it, you begin to understand how the fear of failure constrains you, how it keeps us from attempting great things. She goes on to say that when you remove the fear of failure, impossible things suddenly become possible. The path to truly new, never before done things always has failure along the way. In other words, it's okay to fail. And we should have the awareness and the humility to fail better next time. Our tradition offers many examples of failure. In the Torah, the word for failure, heref, means to sink, to leave alone. How beautifully poignant. How often is it that when we fail, we just want to sink and be left alone? And yet, the times heref is used in the Torah to mean fail are examples when we are reminded that God will not fail us nor forsake us. Surely, whatever your understanding of God is, it allows for the concept that something bigger than ourselves cannot fail us, indeed, because it is bigger than any one person. Dr. Micha Goodman of the Shalom Hartman Institute teaches that our relationship to Torah and Judaism must allow room for failure and shortcoming. The Torah and mitzvot are divine and therefore live in the realm of perfection, while our interactions with Torah and mitzvot live on the path to their never to be realized perfection. When we fail, when we are imperfect, we actually get more of a glimmer at divinity and how precious it is. The Machzor, our High Holy Day prayer book, also provides us with the foundation of and the acceptance to fail better next time. In the Ashamnu prayer we just did, we say that we have committed offenses. We confess them together, each one with the ending nu, meaning we. Because not one of us is perfect, without flaw, without failure. And we end this prayer by saying, now may it be your will, Adonai, God of all generations, to forgive all our sins, to pardon all our wrongdoings, and to blot out all our transgressions. In other words, we are really sorry, God. Please forgive us. We will fail better next time. Last night we heard the beautiful words of Kol Nidre, all vows, which in essence says, we know we're going to make a lot of vows in the next year, and we're probably going to break some of them. So, as a precaution, we're just going to nullify them right away. Indeed, this idea has even made its way out of the synagogue and into colloquial modern Hebrew with the phrase bli neder, without a vow, as in, I'll send you that shakshuka recipe when I get home, bli neder. The mindset of fail better next time is not something unique to Judaism. Many professions have a very comfortable relationship with failure as a way of learning, of acknowledging their humility and their limitations, and for professional developments. Acclaimed chef Dan Barber said, "Failure is very important. It introduces you to an idea that you don't ever want to return to." And the doctor's Hippocratic Oath says, "I will not be ashamed to say, I know not, nor will I fail to call in my colleagues when the skills of another are needed for a patient's recovery." Acknowledging our failures and shortcomings allows us to live a richer life. As author Carl Richards noted in a recent New York Times op-ed, you can regret all the regrets you want, but without them, you wouldn't have lived much of a life. Truthfully, failing is what makes us human. Some things we want to do are just beyond our abilities. So how do we fail better next time? It takes the self-awareness of Rabbi Grobart to recognize that he's going to say one thing and his congregants may do another. It takes heref. It takes time alone to reflect on what has happened. It takes the confidence to get back on our feet after we have failed, knowing that someone or something, or perhaps this very community, has our back. And it takes teshuvah, repentance, to repair our past failures so that we may fail better next time. Rambam, the 12th century rabbi and doctor, outlined the 4 most important steps of teshuvah, which help us fail better next time. 1, verbally confess your mistake and ask for forgiveness. 2, express sincere remorse, resolving not to make the same mistake again. 3, do everything in your power to right the wrong. 4, act differently if the same situation happens again. This process may seem simple, yet its effects have immense sacred healing and spiritual powers. Stephen Covey put his finger on this in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He writes, "Our response to any mistake affects the quality of the next moment. It is important to immediately admit and correct our mistakes so that they have no power over that next moment, and we are empowered again." Imagine what it would be like if we all approached mistakes and failures not as things to avoid, but as an opportunity for growth, for learning, and a moment to deepen our connections to ourselves and each other. By shifting our mindset to fail better next time, we can build a better future together. If we want to renew our relationships, if we want to revitalize our Judaism, if we want to rejuvenate our souls, if we want to restore our faith in humanity, if we want to rekindle our connection to the divine, and if we want to reinvent ourselves these high holy days, we should first start by acknowledging our failures and resolving to fail better next time. Indeed, I am not excluded from this, and I should admit that in these first few months, I have failed a few times. Perhaps I mispronounced a name on the Kaddish list, or perhaps I've forgotten the name of one of you in one of our classes. I failed in how I relate to others, and I failed in how my memory serves me. And here's kind of the funny thing. I've even failed in some way in this teaching. The idea of fail better next time was not an original statement that I developed. I actually learned it from my in-laws, who walked out of Rabbi Grobart's sermon 7 years ago saying, "Oh, Rabbi Grobart spoke beautifully and he had this great line, fail better next time." So when I was researching this sermon, I asked Rabbi Grobart to send me his piece as a starting point that my wife and in-laws still reference today. He responded, "I don't know what you're talking about." It's a great idea, but I've never given a sermon on fail better next time, but here's a sermon I gave on failure a couple years back. Indeed, even our memories can fail us. And the best that we can ask is that we remember better next time. I wish I could go back to that hospital room and to my dead patient and their family. I wish I could have had the courage to be in that family's presence again instead of being overcome with embarrassment and failure. I wish I had taken the opportunity then to fail better next time. Shortly after that internship, I wrote something that I'd like to offer us today as a blessing. An adaptation of Kol Nidre, meaning all vows, reinterpreted as Kol Kishlune, all failures. All failures, broken oaths and commitments, deficiencies and defeats, miscommunications and missteps that will cause us to fail ourselves, our community, and our God from this Yom Kippur until the next Yom Kippur. May we do better. We are sorry. They will all become successes and improvements, accomplishments and blessings, though they are necessary in our life. Our failures shall not be failures. Our brokenness shall not remain brokenness. And our commitment will be to fail better next time. Sometimes I lose my way. I stumble and fall. I fail to see the open door and only see a wall. Sometimes I close my ears when open they should be. But then I stop and listen to that still small voice inside of me. Pitzuli, Sharei Tzedek, Avovam, Odeah, Pitzuli, Sharei Tzedek, Avovam, Odeah. May I see my life in the work of your hands and walk in love and freedom to the promised land. And when I lose my way, I pray that I may see that spark inside the darkness and the gates open for me. Pitzuli, Sharei Tzedek, Avovam, Odeah, Pitzuli, Sharei Tzedek, Avovam, Odeah, Pitzuli, together. Sharei Tzedek, Avovam, Odeah, Pitzuli, Sharei Tzedek, Avovam, Odeah, Pitzuli. Shabbat Shalom.